Hello everyone. This is a brief lecture on René Descartes' views in metaphysics. Many philosophers have asked themselves what kind of things there are in the world. There are many ways to answer this question. René Descartes, the 17th century French philosopher, argued that there are two kinds of things in the world, minds and bodies. In the excerpt that we are reading this week, he begins his consideration of minds and bodies by noticing all of the ideas that seem to be caused by physical things in the world. He also notices how vivid all of these ideas are. Nevertheless, he admits that his idea of himself is that of a bodiless mind. He reaches that conclusion by realizing that he can imagine himself without a body, but cannot imagine himself without a mind. Interestingly, he notices that there are some mental faculties, like the faculty of imagination, that he can also exclude from his conception of himself. Which is to say, Descartes realizes that not all mental faculties are necessary. He does not have to include imagination in his conception of himself, just like he does not have to include his body in his conception of himself. This is called the conceivability argument. The conceivability argument goes like this. If I can conceive of a thing without a certain property, then that property is not essential to my conception of the thing, and therefore that property is not essential to the thing in question. Think of a person wearing gloves. Think of the same person without gloves. Since having the idea of the person does not depend on including gloves in the picture, it must be that wearing gloves is not a necessary part of the idea of a person, or of the person itself. I can conceive of myself as nothing more than a thinking thing. I don't have to think of myself as having a body. So having a body must not be a necessary part of being me. So I can exist without my body, and I am nothing more than a thinking thing. Again, according to the conceivability argument, if I don't have to include an idea, a feature in an idea of a thing, then the thing doesn't need that feature. And since I don't need to include my body in my idea of me, then I don't need my body. Now let's stop for a moment and consider these two claims. Can you conceive of yourself without a body? Can you actually have an imagination or a conception of yourself without a body? Can you conceive of yourself without the ability to imagine things? Many people seem to conclude that you can indeed do both. Indeed, there are many examples in fiction and religion of beings that have no body. The case for a mind without imagination is a little bit weirder, but probably not impossible to conceive of. Returning to Descartes' narrative, he then notices that he has a passive faculty of perception. This passive faculty is the faculty through which he experiences physical sensations. Furthermore, Descartes notes that this passive faculty does not generate its own sensations. So there must be something generating the sensations that we do have. There must be something causing us to experience the physical world. What could that be? Descartes argues that our physical sensations are either caused by an actual physical world, which closely resembles our sensations, so that when we feel a rough surface, the sensation is actually caused by a rough surface, or they are caused by something else, something that does not resemble our sensations. After further consideration, Descartes concludes that if our sensations did not resemble the world, it would mean that God is a deceiver. And since God is not a deceiver, the world must resemble our sensations, at least most of the time. Think about that. Why does it make God a deceiver if the world does not match our perceptions? Thus, just by combining our thinking about sensations and our thinking about the nature of God, Descartes can show that there is really a physical world. This is a pretty big deal for his metaphysics, since he can now give evidence for our two most obvious common sense intuitions, that we have minds and that we live in a physical world. In the final few paragraphs, Descartes discusses the great difference between mind and body and offers some comments on how the body works. The claim that we are not merely a sailor in a ship is one of his most famous claims, and you should definitely spend some time thinking about how he supports it. This has been a brief discussion of the passage on Descartes assigned for you for this week. It is not a complete discussion of everything he says, but it is intended to give you some context and some clarity into what he does say. Please read the material carefully and think about it, and then go do the homework and reading questions. Thanks very much.